Well, my name is Ajay Mathur. I'm with the International Solar Alliance, and on behalf of GHO and the International Solar Alliance, ISA, I welcome you all this afternoon. First of all, it's a delight to join the Green Hydrogen Organization in organizing this particular session. We are delighted to partner on a range of issues, whether it is developing standards or guidelines, on documenting best practices, capacity buildings, and so on. I'm particularly happy that we have with us colleagues from the Asian Development Bank. Priyanta, thank you very much. The Asian Development Bank is supporting the International Solar Alliance in organizing its hydrogen work, including in this platform. I thank you, Priyanta, and particularly the South Asia region of the ADB to work with us. We at the International Solar Alliance are an intergovernmental organization, today having a membership of 106 countries, intergovernmental treaty organization with the mandate to make solar energy the energy of choice across the world. We have launched a new program, Solar for Green Hydrogen, at our assembly last year in October 2021. We see hydrogen as being one of the key enablers for reaching our climate targets and meeting the net zero carbon emissions goals that 80% of the emissions countries responsible for carbon emissions have already adopted. And at the same time, meeting the temperature, particularly the high temperature needs in a range of applications, but in particular in industry and transport. We believe that solar energy remains one of the most attractive resources for green hydrogen production on account of the rapidly falling capital cost of equipment and particularly of electrolyzers. This fall is obviously because of the demand, and we expect a virtuous cycle of demand increasing and cost decreasing to be put up in time. And therefore, over a period of time, we expect that hydrogen from solar will be cost competitive with the hydrogen that is produced from the reformation of natural gas today. We at ISA provide a collaborative platform to create partnerships, to create joint ventures between governments, industries, and financial institutions to enable this transition. We work on analytics and advocacy, helping each country, each organization define why solar makes sense for it. Help in capacity building, because after all, if we are pushing hydrogen, we need to ensure that there are people, policies, processes that enable the transition to occur. And finally, ecosystem readiness support and the programmatic support that is so essential for the transition to occur. Countries will need to see changes occurring in order for them to be convinced that they need to add policy instruments to their quiver to bring in green hydrogen. We look forward to assess and facilitate the readiness to produce solar hydrogen in our member countries, to identify projects which can be then funded by a range of organizations. We look forward to providing support in framing policies and regulations and creating an enabling investment environment so that members are ready to identify investment and identify the projects that are commercially viable as well. So with this in mind, we are co-hosting this session with our partner, the Green Hydrogen Organization, to number one, identify the short-term and long-term demand for solar. Number two, identify case studies that can convince all our partners, all our stakeholders about different applications, different capacities in the gigawatt range. Enable panel discussions on project development and financing, beginning with perspectives from the Asian Development Bank and the private sector. And at the end of the day, we expect to have a better appreciation of how to best kick off the transition to solar green hydrogen with respect to technical, financial, and regulatory aspects. As I end, I want to apologize for not being in Barcelona myself. I am actually at the Sustainable Energy for All Forum in Kigali, but would have given anything to be in Barcelona with all of you. But I want to thank all of you, the speakers, the panelists, and all the participants for being here. Deeply appreciate the time and the interest that you have shown. And I look forward to a most interesting and informative session with each one of you. Many, many thanks, and I look forward to the discussion today.
Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Would you want to add something?
Well, I would now like to essentially welcome everyone and hand it over to the moderator. It was supposed to be my dear colleague, Philippe Malbranche, who unfortunately, because of a personal family tragedy, is not with us today. But I thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you so much. Welcome to everybody to the Shining a Light on Green Hydrogen panel, co-organized with the International Solar Alliance and finally moderated by Acciona Energy, the company that I am representing. So we will be panelists and also moderators of the session. My name is Belén Linares. I am the Innovation Director of Acciona Energy. Acciona Energy is a worldwide company, a utility 100% green, the first 100% green company in Spain with more than 11 gigawatts in operation in 16 countries. I am pleased to be here, and I will try to also introduce all the panelists that are here today, presentially and virtually. First, I would want to say that the solar power is a cheap and key source for the production of the green hydrogen. However, producing this amount of quantities of green hydrogen through solar will require an absolutely enormous amount of solar energy. And this is part of the topic that we are going to cover today in the panel, the different opportunities and also the bottlenecks in order to develop that hybridization of solutions that is so promising for the giga projects that are on the table, but that are also a reality. We are going to see today 3 study cases, one from HDF, another from Acciona, and another from Hydeal, that they will show the hybridization of these technologies. And then we will go back to the different discussions on the panel. I will then present the panelists of today, starting by Mr. Bas Dekker. He is the CEO of Soto Solar, a Spanish solar value chain investor founded in 2018. Prior to Soto Solar, he worked at the STEC Group, supporting technological and sustainable innovation as a venture partner. Hello. Mr. Matthew Gies, he is in virtual from HDF Energy. He's based in Jakarta, and Matthew is director of Asia at HDF Energy, a French independent power producer dedicated exclusively to hydrogen power. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Then Mr. Priyanta Villagatunga, Chief on Energy Sector Group of the Asian Development Bank. So, and a Development and Climate Change Department of the Asian Development Bank. And before joining ADB, he served as the founder, Director General of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Belén. Hi, nice to see you all.
And finally, Mr. Thierry Lepercq, bonjour, et merci. Executive Chairman of Hydeal Spain, and Mr. Lepercq is the President and co-founder of GH2 Energy, a pioneer of mass-scale green hydrogen company. He's also the author of Hydrogen is the New Oil and Megavox, And we say hello and thank you for coming also today to the panel. And finally, Mr. Gerardo Morales, gobernador de la provincia de Jujuy en Argentina. ¿Qué tal? Bienvenido. Él va a incluir en la conversación los acuerdos entre la Unión Europea y Argentina para el desarrollo del hidrógeno verde en la región de Jujuy y en Argentina en particular. Gracias. Okay, let's then start by the 3 study cases that we are going to present today. The first one is, is the HDF case. Please, Mathieu.
Yes, so thank you, Belen. I would like to thank everyone to give us the opportunity to share a few words today and our experience and vision for hydrogen development. So I'm sharing my screen. If you cannot see it properly, please let me know. So today, I guess we will talk a lot about gigawatts, about solar, about hydrogen as a molecule. This is amazing. Thierry Leperc is proposing great projects in Europe and not only. But that will take a time. In the meantime, HDF is supporting those projects, but also developing different scale of projects where hydrogen can be implemented on the short run in a viable manner. So I will present how we can do it with a focus on Asia. This is my role. I'm based in Jakarta and I lead HDF development there. So I will start by a quick slide to explain who we are. We are not as famous as Acciona, so a few words on HDF. HDF Energy is a developer and APP of hydrogen power plants. So we are doing like the other developers and IPPs, but we focus our position to what we know most. It means to hydrogen. So we always include hydrogen totally or partially to our projects. A quick slide on the context also, why solar and hydrogen and why hydrogen the way we do it. Today we see that solar and wind became quite affordable, very cheap, and can be deployed extremely quickly. That's amazing, but we also see that the intermittency can create tensions in some grids or some areas of the grid. And we do believe that the hydrogen may have a role to play in some areas in order to deliver to the grid a non-intermittent power. And it is that way that we will use today hydrogen at HDF. We do believe that when we sell kilowatt hour, it's more convenient to have a bankable project than when we sell molecule. I'm speaking about the short run. It means tomorrow and the next month. So I will explain what we did in French Guiana and how we are duplicating that in Asia. But firstly, a few words on the scheme, the type of projects we propose and how we use the hydrogen. So our mindset is to deliver to the grid or to an off-taker a non-intermittent power by combining renewable energies to batteries and hydrogen. And the hydrogen is made on site. So it means we are 100% logistic free. So we will manufacture the hydrogen with electrolyzers. We will store the hydrogen, and the hydrogen will become electricity through the fuel cell. And the mindset, again, is to bring comfort to the utilities by delivering to the grid only a non-intermittent power. And we see that in areas like island grids, the utilities are struggling worldwide to manage the solar and wind. And in such scheme, the hydrogen should play a certain role. This is what we did and what we are doing in French Guiana. So French Guiana is not an island, but is like an island. It's isolated. It's surrounded by sea and forest. So the grid has limited size. The diversity, the mix of the grid is also limited. So the capability of the utility there to balance, to adjust the intermittency is also limited. So we propose the renewable power plants in this grid in order to maximize the integration of renewable energies and to diminish the dependence to expensive thermal power plants. We started the construction end of last year. I won't go into details. We have a little time available, but just to go straight to the point, we want to say that it's a way to make green hydrogen bankable today, because we see that in this project, this is a commercial scheme. This is not a pilot or a demo. The total investment is 180 million euros. And we have commercial banks like SMBC and BNP Paribas as part of the lenders. That is really important for us, because tomorrow, when we will go to India, in Indonesia, and Philippines, we can demonstrate that we can duplicate such projects without subsidies and even without development banks. They are always welcome, and we are working with ADB, but we want also to show that commercial banks are comfortable with hydrogen. So a quick word to say that this is not only in France. We are developing such projects in Indonesia, especially on Sumba Island, where we are working with ADB support and other international institutions. Why Indonesia? Many islands, if you look at the east side of the country, it's full of isolated grids and complicated for PLN to develop solar and wind, and the hydrogen can help to address their issues. We are also present in Philippines. We signed a cooperation agreement in Mindanao last month. So we are duplicating the scheme we have implemented in French Guiana, in Indonesia and Philippines. And not only, step by step, we are accessing the other markets like India. I know India is somehow part of this event also today. We do believe that the project is quite significant. The potential is quite significant in India. And the way we handle the hydrogen is a way to bring the first references to the country in the very coming months without subsidies, and to bring a learning curve while waiting for the gigawatt scale to come. So it was very short. I went straight to the point. I had more or less 6 minutes. For the ones who are interested, you can reach me in the coming days. And if anyone has a question, I will be glad to answer. So thank you, Belen.
Thank you, Mathieu, for the explanation, and thank you for fitting the time that we had. The second study case that we are going to present today is the study case of Acciona in the Highland of Mallorca. If you could please include the slides, I appreciate. We are going to introduce the project Power to Green Hydrogen Mallorca. This is a real project. It is already commissioned. It was commissioned by the end of 2021 and operating, but this is true that the off-takers of the project are still on the way of being ready in order to digest all these 330 tons of green hydrogen that is being produced in Spain. Those are it is the first green hydrogen that is being produced in Spain, as in a utility scale basis, obviously. Can you go to the next slide? Or okay, thank you. This project is in the Mallorca Island. We tried to demonstrate a couple of concepts through this project. One is the decarbonization, the capability of the decarbonization of the technology, making business and trying to incentivize the green hydrogen economy. And the other is obviously the acceleration that is made by the fact that the island is so much dependent on the peninsula and the degree of independence that this is giving. But this is second level if we compare with the decarbonization effect. Power to Green Mallorca is a project that is running with a 2.5 megawatts electrolyzer. This is a demonstrator project, combined hybridized with solar PV, generating, as I've said, 330 tons per year and avoiding 16,000 tons of CO2 per year. It is the first Mediterranean project that has been funded by the European Commission, and we are really proud about that. And we are performing this project together with partners, Acciona and Agas. This is a public and private collaboration project, Acciona and Agas as private companies, and IDAE, the support of the Spanish government in this project. to be able to be pioneers in green hydrogen in Spain. If we go ahead with the scheme of the project, I will show to you a video later on where you will see the details on the different off-takers. We are trying to demonstrate all the different capable uses of the green hydrogen in Iceland, the injection in the natural gas net, and the capability, for instance, of the hotel chains to decarbonize themselves with the substitution of the natural gas by green hydrogen. The use in fuel cells for residential or industrial, or even the Balearic pod with cogeneration fuel cells and electrical fuel cells, and also the application for collective transport, not heavy transport, but collective transport, with the investment that the Balearic government has done in the 5 first hydrogen buses of Spain that would be running, the first one by the end of the year. So really a demonstration project that is able to track the demand and to incentivize the demand. That this is one of the big challenges that we've detected for the green hydrogen. Those are the main numbers of the project. I've already mentioned them. And I would want to tell that the 2 solar plants, and this is something also that perhaps for the debate after we will mention, one of the solar plants is connected to the electrolyzer in self-consumption mode, but the other solar plant is not connected to the electrolyzer. It is connected to the grid and virtually connected through a blockchain traceability, origin traceability, guarantees of origin traceability to the electrolyzer in order to pilot the first experience, the first digital traceability platform of guarantees of origin of the green hydrogen until we have these standard regulations that allow us to demonstrate the origin of the green hydrogen that is, please next slide, that is fed by the solar plant. This green guarantees of origin digital platform is called GH2 Chain. It is pioneer in Spain, I would say worldwide, and tries to give the confidence to the off-takers, to the customers, on the one hand, of the renewable origin of the energy that is feeding the electrolyzer, that is generating their green hydrogen, the one that they are paying for. And on the other side, also the percentage, please go to the next slide, the percentage of the green hydrogen that is mixed in the natural gas net that you can see in the stream, on the screen, on real time and with the confidence that the blockchain is giving to the process. So we really want in Acciona to push through innovation for this kind of platforms in order to demonstrate that this is possible to be in the future standardized or regulated in order to push on the taxonomy of the green hydrogen. And I would want now to put just a video. It is in Spanish. It would explain better than me the project, but there are subtitles in English. So for the ones that are not familiar with Spanish, you will understand. Thank you.
Es invisible, inodoro y más ligero que el aire, pero se trata del elemento más abundante del universo. Bienvenidos a la era del hidrógeno, el complemento ideal de las energías renovables, en la transición hacia una economía descarbonizada. El hidrógeno permite almacenar la energía eólica y solar y utilizarla cuando no sopla el viento o no brilla el sol, con total seguridad. Producido con energía renovable, el hidrógeno verde no genera emisiones de efecto invernadero, solo vapor de agua como único residuo. El proyecto Power to Green Hydrogen Mallorca representa el primer ecosistema de hidrógeno verde en una isla europea. Liderado por Acciona Energía y Enagas, con la participación de Cemex, el IDAE y hasta un total de 30 entidades, el proyecto es un ejemplo de colaboración público-privada con un objetivo común: demostrar el potencial del hidrógeno para descarbonizar un enclave privilegiado, impulsando su desarrollo sostenible y regenerando el entorno. El proyecto ha supuesto la construcción de 2 plantas fotovoltaicas en los municipios de Lloseta y Petra, que generan la electricidad necesaria para producir el hidrógeno. Una planta de electrólisis situada en Lloseta emplea esa electricidad para obtener hidrógeno del agua. El hidrógeno es comprimido y almacenado para su posterior transporte y utilización. Está previsto que sea utilizado para el suministro a servicios públicos y comerciales para generación de calor y electricidad, autobuses de transporte público y flotas de vehículos, e inyección en la red gasista para su distribución a clientes de gas natural. Un sistema basado en tecnología blockchain patentado por Acciona Energía garantiza la trazabilidad del producto y asegura que cada gramo de hidrógeno es 100% verde. Power to Green Hydrogen Mallorca se enmarca en el proyecto europeo Green Highland, un proyecto que ha obtenido la mayor financiación comunitaria a un país mediterráneo en el campo del hidrógeno verde. En ese contexto, la experiencia de Mallorca va a servir de modelo a otros territorios insulares para la creación de ecosistemas energéticos sostenibles. Power to Green Hydrogen Mallorca es una apuesta pionera que mira claramente hacia el futuro. Un proyecto acorde con las impresionantes perspectivas de crecimiento del hidrógeno que prevén las principales agencias energéticas internacionales y alineado con las estrategias de hidrógeno europea y española. Power to Green Hydrogen Mallorca, una ventana abierta al futuro sostenible que todos deseamos.
Thank you. And finally, the third study case, that is the High-Deal case, Thierry.
So I don't have a nice film, but I have a message, is that solar is going to replace oil now. And we're demonstrating that in Asturias. High-Deal España was born last year as a joint venture between ArcelorMittal, who operates a major steel plant in Avilés and Gijón, in this northwestern region of Spain. We have Grupo Fertiberia, which is a fertilizer maker, which intends to fully decarbonize its production of fertilizers with green ammonia. All of this, it's a hub. All of this is going to be supplied by solar. 15 solar parks, half of which have already been secured. We're talking about 9.5 gigawatts of solar to be built in Castilla y León and Aragon in the next, starting from 2025 onwards. Electrolyzers will be jointly located in those, on those sites. And Enagas, another of our shareholder, will build 1,000 kilometers of pipelines, which will connect the hydrogen production area to the Asturias consumption sites. The message here is that if you take a hub approach, which you create upstream, midstream, and downstream, you have a business model that works. Because right now, what we're talking about is to produce 330,000 tons of hydrogen. It's going to replace about 5% of the natural gas imports of Spain. And to do it at a price which is lower than the cost of natural gas. So the situation that we're seeing right now is not just about decarbonization. It's about energy supply. We have today an immense crisis in Europe. Power prices have been multiplied by 5 on the wholesale market, natural gas prices by 7. And we have major supply issues. What the hydrogen that we're doing with High-Deal is not just a decarbonization play. Actually, we call that, lots of people, a very famous entrepreneur talked about green premium. We're talking about green discount here, cheaper than natural gas. And we have a very simple opinion on that. It's because we're going to be cheaper than fossil fuels that we can take over on fossil fuels. At the same time, we need to be aware that such a project is very complex because it needs to bring together all the value chain players around an infrastructure player. The key message here is that we need to scale up massively to answer the needs of Europe right now. 1,600 terawatt hours is that what we need to replace from Russian natural gas imports, and we need to replace them now. Now, what energy source can do it in terms of the volumes, in terms of the speed, and most importantly, in terms of the versatility? What can replace oil, gas, and coal in all their uses? And that's green hydrogen. So the message that I'm coming here today is that the time of solar has come. A time where it's unbeatable. 0.5% of the area of the Mediterranean area, north and south of the Mediterranean, would be enough to supply 100% of the energy needs of Europe and Africa. This is not just a potential. We're going to make it happen. Next week, I'll be in Nouakchott at the invitation of the government of Mauritania, working on a project which is 15 times bigger than Ideal España. Why? Because we have, as my good friend Jose Manuel Arias, who's speaking in a panel here, chairman of ArcelorMittal Spain, saying we need far more than those 330,000 tons of hydrogen for the plants of ArcelorMittal. ArcelorMittal itself needs 1 million tons for its plants in other European countries. Where are we going to get it? We're going to get it from large-scale solar, mass-scale solar. Now we need the whole industry to move up. And this is where this conference is most welcome. But we need more than talking. We need to move forward. This is an emergency. We need to move forward and we need to have big projects. Most importantly, we need to have cooperation. And the message, I think we've seen that with a project of Acciona. These projects don't happen without cooperation, value chain integration. Not one company is going to be able to do that. And we know that in the world of energy, lots of companies tend to say, I can take care of everything. Oil companies like to say that upstream, midstream, downstream is something that they can take care of everything on their own. What we need is a model that can be duplicated with cooperation. And I would like to end with saluting the International Solar Alliance, which is dear to my heart. 7 years ago, together with the Indian ambassador to Paris, we worked hard for the launch of this alliance, which was announced on November 30th, 2015 by Prime Minister Modi, President Hollande, and Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and Jérôme Estrallet, who was at that time the chairman of ENGIE, a company that was the recent owner of my solar company, which we have developed lots of gigawatts of solar in different countries. I have a message for the International Solar Alliance. You have on your shoulders the responsibility to bring that message to the world globally. Yes, solar turned into a molecule. Hydrogen is the new gas. This is the new solar gas. That those solutions can be implemented at large scale everywhere. And it's not just Europe, it's not just Africa, it's the world that needs to go with it, with the right business model. And what we're doing humbly, I mean, it's step by step at Hydeal is showing the way. Next week, we will announce the signing of 3 EPC contracts for the construction of those projects. So it's not just a concept, it's projects, it's financing being mobilized, and it's happening right now here in Spain. So we're very proud to put Spain at the center of this one. Viva España.
Thank you, Thierry. Now it's time to go to ADB financial perspective on the solar and green hydrogen business. Thank you, Priyanta. Could you please help us to understand a bit better which are the different activities that you are undertaking in the Asia and Pacific zone, and also which would be the bottlenecks in your opinion and opportunities for the development of this high-scale green hydrogen and solar? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you very much for inviting me to this event. And it's great to be here and collaborate with International Solar Alliance, which is again very dear to our heart. And we collaborate very much, very closely in the Asia Pacific region with International Solar Alliance. And it's very encouraging messages from the three speakers who spoke before me, the case studies. And I never thought that the hydrogen economy has developed to such a level. It's really great to hear this. And it's basically honey to our ears in Asia and the Pacific. As my previous speaker said, obviously Europe is suffering a lot as a result of this energy crisis. And in fact, Asia and Pacific region is no different because of the high prices. And some of the countries are really reeling from high energy prices and suffering heavily. Their economies are suffering heavily. Now, ADB, on the part of ADB, as you know, last year we updated our energy policy, or rather we introduced our new energy policy 2021, where these new technologies, particularly hydrogen, plays an important role, green hydrogen. In fact, we had blue hydrogen also, but I think that was not very well received. So green hydrogen is what we are really, advocating. And ADB's main role, obviously, to facilitate project identification and development and implementation with obviously capacity building and knowledge products and services through our technical assistance and, of course, financial assistance. And we have this saying that there is money for the project if there is a project for the money. So it's important that the projects are very well developed to such a level that we can obviously put in our money in it. And that's our task in our Asia Pacific region. The capacity is not as high as what we would like to see compared to particularly other countries. Obviously, ADB has a huge role to play in terms of capacity development, policy, developing policy environment, regulatory environment, and of course, eventually bringing financing to the region. And of course, solar and other renewable energy to hydrogen mimics, as my previous speaker said, the natural process, create fossil fuels. And potential users of green hydrogen mimics the existing global hydrocarbon base. So therefore, naturally, it can easily replace the current hydrocarbon business in the world. And in this regard, I must bring to your notice that offshore renewable energy development is critical for energy transition in our region. And we are supporting identification of new approaches and business models for monetizing offshore renewable resources without selling electricity per se, because it's much more important to monetize this and bring other forms of energy which can be transported and used in other sectors of the economy. So green hydrogen features prominently in offshore renewable energy development, as I said, and enables both time shifting and location shifting. So as far as ADB support is concerned, as I said, we have knowledge sharing, particularly for capacity development and workshops, handbooks and other knowledge products, naturally for the policymakers, industry players, awareness of latest trends and technologies. And in fact, the conferences like this would definitely help to bring that message to our various stakeholders in our region. And then as I said, support government and policy development, strategy roadmap and regulatory frameworks for hydrogen and hydrogen energy development. And also things like, as my previous speaker said, enhance hydrogen trading platform. That's very, very important to promote international hydrogen supply chain with competitive market and trading hubs. And the other most important, the our part of the region, it's important that we demonstrate what is good in this, because it's not as easy when it comes to come and dictate things without showing what the results are going to be. So when it comes to that, we try to bring in pilot hydrogen technologies and business models in these countries, and that's something what we support through our some of our concessional financing, and then to showing how to scale them up. And then eventually financing. We have different sources of financing windows, both private sector as well as sovereign windows. And then we have catalytic funds coming from various, clean funds, clean energy funds from various donor agencies, and also philanthropies are working with us not specifically in this area at the moment, but obviously that's one of the things what we are looking at. So we are very much in it, and this is new to us, but we are quite open and very much in the game, and so that the Asia Pacific region can benefit from it. So we have been in the solar energy side for a long time. As Ajay quite rightly said, we have been working very closely with the International Solar Alliance, and we have been very active in solar sector. But now it's time for us to move and get these countries to move into a hydrogen, and where we can play a very, very big role. So I'll stop at that and leave it. Well, thank you very much once again for the invitation and providing this opportunity.
Thank you, Priyanta. Thank you. Now it's turn to Soto Solar. I would want to, after the financial perspective on this kind of hybridization of technologies to make business, I would want to ask, does, for the commercial perspective, the incentivization on the demand, which is your view on the level of penetration on the demand that those projects are having, and which is the effort from the commercial point of view that you are doing?
Thank you, Bilin. Yeah, that's an interesting topic, and I'd like to actually sort of share a little bit my view as well of the room. And I think this sort of highlights from a commercial perspective that whilst there is a lot of excitement around green hydrogen, the solar development and the commercial proposition behind solar investment is actually sort of taken as a given. It's obviously a key input into this opportunity, and we as solar developers actually very much like that, and we're here to educate ourselves on that. But having joined the bankability session just earlier, there's sort of three elements that are being addressed. One is sort of capital, and I think most people will agree, even though it's new, and I echo the words of the gentleman of the Asian Development Bank. It's new, but I think banks and financiers have a way to get to grips once the technology is sort of proven, right? So the bankability will follow the technology play. That's not a given yet. There's obviously multiple technologies in green hydrogen. So in that sense, it takes a bit of time, but I think that's in the end not the most difficult part. I think the most difficult part is bringing together all the elements. And just to give you an example of what we're trying to do here in Spain, and I will immediately admit that we as solar developers also very much sort of focus on our silo, which is trying to create a plant of 1,200 megawatts in Castilla Mancha, which arguably should be able to produce the cheapest electricity in Europe. But if one of the key components to make green hydrogen affordable is LCOEs of 20 cents or less, then you're sort of implicitly assuming that the parties financing utility scale solar are not going to be making any returns. So the numbers, as far as we're concerned, don't add up yet. Now, we do see the opportunity, and I think the opportunity is very much in sort of cooperation. I think, the solar industry is probably 10, 15 years ahead in terms of cycle, but it's still very much sort of, not a fully mature sector. I think we're getting there now with utility scale plants. I think the perspective, and it's difficult because parties that invest in our plants are very much comfortable with solar, but they have no idea about green hydro. So I think it is very much, and this is the opportunity that we're taking today and tomorrow to meet, older but also new friends, is to figure out how, as a solar developer and investor, you can actually team up and create a consortium around the cheapest electricity available, rather than say, okay, it's a given, and then other people will take the risk on the solar development. In that mix, obviously, we also need the wind developers and the storage. So we think it's doable, but I hear Jerry saying we need to cooperate. And I think that's for me a key part to get to a commercially viable opportunity for everybody involved.
Thank you, Bas. Gerardo Morales, gobernador de Jujuy en Argentina. Voy a cambiar al español. Bienvenido. Hemos visto las perspectivas comerciales, financieras, cada una con sus conclusiones, y ahora nos gustaría entender cuál es la ambición que hay en la zona que gobiernas y en Argentina relativo al desarrollo de solar fotovoltaica e hidrógeno verde. Además, hemos escuchado una posible colaboración entre la Unión Europea y Argentina para el desarrollo, potenciar el desarrollo de estas tecnologías. Por favor.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Primero, un gusto participar de este panel y muchísimas gracias por la invitación. Bueno, Jujuy se encuentra al norte de la República Argentina, limita con Chile y con Bolivia. Formamos el triángulo del litio, además, con Atacama, que tiene también una radiación solar importante, y nuestra provincia y 2 provincias más del norte argentino tenemos a 4.000 metros de altura una radiación de 3.000 a 3.200 horas de radiación anual. Así que estamos con un desarrollo de energías renovables importantes. Ya tenemos una planta de 300 megavatios. Vamos a ampliar otra planta de 200 megavatios con 100 megavatios de acumulación en baterías de litio. Tenemos 10.000 hectáreas reservadas para desarrollo de energía solar y ya tenemos un anteproyecto. Estimamos que en 4 meses vamos a terminar un proyecto ejecutivo para empezar en una primera etapa con 1 gigavatio, con 1.000 megavatios para la producción de hidrógeno verde. La idea es en la primera etapa producir 400.000 toneladas de hidrógeno verde. La idea es escalar el proyecto a 7.000 megavatios u 8.000 megavatios. Tenemos un sistema de transporte para poder exportar el hidrógeno verde por el puerto de Antofagasta, Chile. Tenemos allí en la zona norte 2 gasoductos que se construyeron en la década del 90, cuando le exportábamos gas a Chile. Luego el autoabastecimiento de Chile ha dejado sin ocupar esos ductos, así que tenemos infraestructura desde la puna jujeña en este proyecto que en reuniones con la Unión Europea y con el Banco Europeo de Inversiones, que ya está financiando un par de proyectos en Jujuy, Banco Europeo de Inversiones y la Agencia Francesa de Desarrollo también, estamos presentando el proyecto para que podamos contar con financiamiento. Quiero decirles que además la República Argentina tiene los mejores recursos eólicos en la Patagonia, en el sur del país. Estamos próximos a tratar en el Congreso Nacional. Ya tenemos una ley vigente de producción de hidrógeno que vence este año, es del 2006, la ley 26.123. Este año vamos a tener una nueva legislación que creo que hacia allí tenemos que ir todos los países, y estoy convencido que no solo tenemos que tener un plan nacional de desarrollo del hidrógeno verde, sino un plan global. Y estoy convencido que allí tenemos que articular no solo cooperación, sino inversión privada hacia el desarrollo de hidrógeno verde. Así que vamos a contar en Argentina con una legislación muy favorable para las inversiones, con exenciones de aranceles de importación para equipamiento, con exenciones de impuesto al valor agregado y exenciones de impuesto a las ganancias, entre otros beneficios impositivos, entre otros también beneficios para tasas de interés para el financiamiento de este tipo de proyectos. Así que bueno, convocar obviamente a la inversión y desde ya que nosotros también somos solares, como las empresas que acaban de exponer también. Me alegra mucho el proyecto en Mallorca. Tenemos un pequeño proyecto también en el sur del país, en Comodoro Rivadavia, que es una zona petrolera, y una empresa petrolera está produciendo 200 toneladas de hidrógeno verde en este momento. Habían empezado primero con gas y luego hicieron un parque eólico y están produciendo, bueno, a pequeña escala, pero estamos convencidos que allí está el futuro y que tenemos que empezar ya y que podemos empezar de inmediato. Así que, bueno, cuando quieran les brindamos la información de nuestro proyecto para inversiones y para generar una producción a gran escala de hidrógeno verde.
Thank you so much, Governador Morales, for the intervention. We have just finished the time that we had, so there is no room enough for more questions or even questions from the audience. But I would want to close the panel with some specific sentences that has been said that I think that they are interesting. So I will try to summarize them. Thierry said cheaper than natural gas. And Thierry said the solar and green hydrogen is the new oil. Priyanta said that there is money to finance for the green hydrogen. Bas said that there are multiple technologies, but it will take some time. And Bas also said the challenge of the capability of putting all them together. And Gobernador Morales said el potencial triángulo del litio, más de 3.000 horas de irradiación solar en Argentina y cómo articular la cooperación y la inversión. Thank you so much for today. Thank you the panelists for your intervention and also virtually Mathieu and Priyanta, a luxury. And thank you everybody for attending.